My name is London Rain. Merry Christmas to everybody that's celebrating, and thank you for joining me in my studio today for another episode of Between Layers. Today I'll be breaking down a sample that I made in last week's episode of sample making, which consists of more than 150 layers, and it sounds like this. I'll be taking you through my process and show you everything that I think is worth mentioning and interesting, so let's get started. I usually start off my samples by playing around on the guitar or on the keys. I used the Stage 73V by Arturia this time. Also did some singing, and after some trial and error I came up with this. Sadly, there is no big secret that will magically unlock your powers of writing good melodies. For me, it's just pure intuition at this point, and if that's something you're struggling with, I recommend you just listen to the music that you like and focus on what's happening melodically, and also just write a lot of music, because with experience comes a feel for what works and what doesn't, what sounds cool and what sounds cheesy, and so on. Another thing that's really important is to follow through with your ideas, so let's just listen to what I started with again. To me, that sounds absolutely terrible and uninspiring, but don't just get rid of your ideas because they don't sound great in the beginning. Just go with it and see where it takes you. For me, it always really helps to switch out the instrument that I'm currently using for my idea. So in this example, I got rid of the Rhodes and started singing in the melody. Also did some layers underneath and came up with this choir. At this point, I'm really happy I didn't give up on the idea just because of how it sounded before. Let's take a quick detour right now and I'll show you how I make my choir sound like that. First, you have to know what kind of choir you're going for. Something small and intimate like a barbershop quartet, or something bigger like a church choir type sound, or something in between. So I was going for that bigger sound, which means doing a lot of layers, and the last thing that I want is a clean and dry sound. So I just put my mic in the middle of my room and started saying the same thing over and over again, while constantly changing my position to the microphone with every take. This results in a difference of pre-delay, ratio of direct to reflected signal, and a difference in loudness of the individual takes, which just gives it that depth and size. The second thing that's really important is the panning. So my rule of thumb is the higher the vocal line, the wider the panning. The deeper I go, the narrower it gets. After that is just an EQ with a low cut and a high shelf and a basic reverb. Moving on to the strings, I used the BBC Symphony Orchestra by Spitfire for this one and just played in off the layers that I was singing with the choir. That already had a really cool sound, but I wanted to make it sound even bigger and more like real instruments being played. So what I did, and I use this trick all the time, I recorded my speakers. I basically put the mic at roughly the same position that I'm sitting at and record every string line solo. After that, I place the microphone to the left of my speakers first and then to the right, while playing all of the strings together to basically get a summed room signal. The solo strings are getting panned wherever I like them. The summed signal is getting panned hard left and hard right with a low cut and a high shelf, which really widens the whole signal and brings up the subtle mic hiss that adds up when recording this many layers, which I really like. So here's how it sounded before and after. Because the choir and the string section are kind of similar in terms of overtones, which means in terms of texture, I wanted to contrast that with something else and went with a glockenspiel and a marimba. I also wanted to rhythmically and melodically accentuate what I was doing already, so I came up with this, again using the BBC Symphony Orchestra plugin. Two important things to notice here. First, I'm not starting on the 1 but doing this little walk up here, which makes it feel a little more integrated into the track and less like a loop that's just being thrown on the 1. Secondly, like with the vocals and the strings, I did some layering to give that one melody line a little more character. I played this in by hand on my keyboard 4 times so the notes aren't hitting at the same time, which gives it again a more realistic feel. To make it even more realistic, I recorded my speakers again, single instruments first, sound signal after. Here's how all of that changed the original sound. The last element I added to bring anything new melodically to the sample were the pizzicato strings. Again, using the Spitfire plugin, doing multiple layers played in multiple times and recording my speakers. The glockenspiel and the marimba had this very long pause, which this section fills out very nicely, giving those two elements some kind of call and response effect. After that, it was really about making certain sections sound more full and giving some ear candy here and there. Here's a quick walkthrough of what I did. I used the B3 by Arturia just because it fit the vibe, recording my speakers again to make it sound a little less digital. Took this piano called The Gentleman by Native Instruments, did that same little walk up that I did with the glockenspiel for layering and to make it feel more integrated, played the same chords as B3 and of course recorded my speakers again. I also found this harp in the Spitfire plugin and did some runs with it for some ear candy. I picked up my flute, also found this clarinet from the BBC Orchestra and played that main melody with both of them. To make everything sound a little more expensive, if you will, I recorded some random notes from this Logic stock instrument on my Porter Studio and created this tape loop texture. I really hope there was something helpful or inspiring in here for you. The stems of this whole thing are on my Patreon already, but I just uploaded the MIDI of everything that I played in as well. You can support what I do over there or right here by liking or subscribing. As always, I really appreciate you taking your time watching this, and I'll see you next Sunday. Love. Save me.